Hello and welcome to the B2 Beast podcast, the best place to collect killer ideas for big business. And today we have got a beast in the building. She is a long-standing legend in logistics, where she is a recruiter by trade and a connector at heart. And over the last decade has bootstrapped CS Recruiting from zero to now one of the best firms in the world at connecting top-tier talent in the supply chain industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Charlie Saffro!
Wow, that was such an amazing introduction. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your time, your talent, your expertise with us here today. Super, super, super grateful. And on that note, I would love to hear, where are you tuning in from and what are you most grateful for right now?
I am tuning in from Highland Park, Illinois. It's a suburb outside of Chicago. Born and raised here, lived in the city for many years, and then got sent back to the suburbs with my third son. What am I most grateful for? I try to really be mindful about gratitude. Today, I'm going to say I'm most grateful for my husband. He is a huge supporter. We've got an untraditional setup, but the fact that he supports me through work, through personal times is, I couldn't do it without him. So let's give him that shout out.
Oh, love hearing that straight out the gates. And you yourself have a very impressive story that I'd love to explore and tap into. Starting with perhaps a big win on your plate. What is one of the biggest campaigns or milestones or really just projects that you're most proud of? What would you consider the biggest win of your career or your business thus far?
I'm going to actually tie it back to my business in the recruiting world, and I'm going to tell you about my best recruit personally. So as a recruiter, I spend my life finding the right match for companies when they need to hire talent, and then we help those job seekers find the right home. And when I first started my business, I had been a recruiter already, and I didn't expect to start a business. I was doing some freelance projects and got to a point where the opportunity was there, and really ended up starting this business because I didn't want to fail. I didn't want to underdeliver. And I knew that the only way that I would continue to produce and scale is by hiring. And it's kind of like the cobbler's wife, where all I do is help companies find their next hire. And when it came time for me to hire, I was like, I don't even know where to start. You're the same. And so I really thought about the profile I was looking for. And I should mention, my first hire was my husband. So this was actually our second hire. And I didn't know where to start, but I knew I wanted someone a few years out of college, maybe 1 or 2 years in the working world, who was hungry, who was a quick learner. And I was in my mid-30s at this point. So I sent out an email to maybe 5 girls that I knew that were still in college, babysitters, neighbors. And I ended up receiving the resume of Beth Herbeholtz, who today is our COO. She's been with us for 12 years. And it's just ironic because she got to me through my second cousin's college friend's best friends from home sister. And that is just what life is about. It's about networking. It's about really leaning into, we're all 6 degrees separated, and you probably know the person, or that person knows the person, or that person knows the person that can help you. And it's just about tapping into your network, paying it forward. So when you ask for something, people are happy to give back, and just, never underestimating the power of an introduction. So that one introduction led to, a breakfast interview where I made her an offer on the spot. She trusted me, joined my team, and 12 years later, she's really my right hand in the business.
Wow. That is an epic win indeed. What signals, when you were at that early in the stage and you have this brother of a cousin of a buddy of whatever, and you have somebody that's coming to you in that opportunity, What signals were you looking for that were like, yo, this is it. This is it. Versus just making the desperate move, the desperate choice of like, oh my God, we need to get somebody in there, like just throw them in, see how it goes. What were the signals that were like, nah, she's the one. She's the one. Were there any early signals in that, or was it kind of developed over time?
A little bit of both. When I first interviewed her, I didn't have an office. I don't even think I had business cards. I maybe had a logo that I made myself and, PowerPoint. But it was trust. I needed someone who would trust me and believe in me to guide them. And that's what I felt. And I think maybe part of that was because we had this common connection. Granted, it was removed, but we both knew the same person. And maybe that, that person could vouch for both of us, just establish trust. But she was not desperate. I mean, she had been coming from a career where she had that perfect blend. She recruited, and she also worked in the transportation industry, which is really the intersection of what we do. And I don't think that was kind of a surprise. It was like, oh, great, that's added benefit. But I trusted her. She trusted me. We are very different people. And I've realized that over the years, how much we really complement each other. And when I think back to maybe my first impression of her, maybe I was just attracted to that, like attracted to someone who could maybe ground me, who could balance me. But I think I felt trusted by her. And that's what really has been the foundation of our relationship.
Wow. No, those vibes, there's definitely a sort of like meta level of connection, recruiting, all of that. There is a technical level we'll get into, but that's good to hear. And that it turned out so great all these years later. Brilliant to hear. Now let's maybe hit the other side of the spectrum that's not as pretty or not as glorious. Do you perhaps have an epic failure in the bank? And maybe a turnaround story, or perhaps maybe just some lessons we can extract from that if maybe it didn't turn around. But would love to hear what is that story, or what is that moment for you?
I would challenge you to find an entrepreneur who doesn't have a failure, because I think that is a huge part of the recipe. And it's the people who can learn from their failures and really embrace it and be a little vulnerable that can move on from them. So I think back in the scheme of things, it may not be the biggest failure, but it's the best lesson I learned through failure. And in my early days, I was invited to go to a large company. We'd already been recruiting for this company and had kind of proven ourselves. And they asked me to fly down to their headquarters and meet with some of their team members. And so I was happy to do that. I got on a plane, I went there, and I got a tour of the office, saw, a bunch of the faces of the names I knew. And then they brought me into a conference room and people shuffled in. And the main person said to me, like, okay, I'll hand you the cord to the computer. You can get your presentation set up and then we'll get started. And I just froze because I did not have a presentation. And at that very moment, like, talk about imposter syndrome, I felt it. But at that moment, I was like, oh my God, like, did they tell me to present something? Did they tell me to prepare? Or like, I had already won their business, or so I thought. And what I didn't know, and they had shared this with me then, was after I left that day, they were bringing in 2 other recruiting firms, and we were competing to be the preferred vendor. And so thinking back to it, like, I'm a competitive person. And if they would have told me that from the start and just, we're evaluating 3 firms, we want you to put your best foot forward, I would have just handled it so differently. I would have over-prepared. I would have gone in there and blown them away. But yet I didn't have anything. And it wasn't that I couldn't speak about my business without a presentation. It was probably very honest and obvious that, like, I was, a deer in headlights when they asked me for that. So what I learned from that is the best way to overcome imposter syndrome is to prepare. The way you prepare is obviously diligence, but learning, being vulnerable, asking questions. And I would say that is who I have been as an entrepreneur ever since. Like, I hold myself accountable. And I remember the pit in my stomach when they asked me to plug in my computer. And I never want to experience that again. So the learning I had was just like, over-prepared, develop things. You might need them one day and you can't go wrong that way.
Oh my gosh.
Not in the business. I did not win it. And that was the other lesson, is that somebody else, whether they told the other firms to prepare or not, somebody else went in there and presented better than I did. And I lost that opportunity fair and square.
I was literally having secondhand anxiety just hearing your story of being thrown into those moments. But it takes those moments for now. Next time you're up for a bid or you're up for an offer, like, we're ready to hammer it home. So that was a brilliant and slightly torturous story to hear, being put on the spot like that. So yeah, let's keep it rolling in your world and in your journey so far. I'd love to hear, what is the wildest way someone has earned attention or business? Whether it's for yourself or perhaps a candidate you've been working with. What's the most innovative, craziest thing somebody's done to earn business or attention, to get the door open?
Yeah, I'll go with the attention. And this has happened over the years many times, but there was a moment probably back in like 2013 or so where I was traveling to a client in Charlotte and I needed to get a rental car. And the woman behind the desk asked me, why are you visiting Charlotte? And I hope you have a great stay. And we just got to talking, and I told her that I recruited in the logistics industry, and she told me she'd always wanted to work in the logistics industry, and, working at a rental car agency was kind of her first step. And so I said, take my business card and let's stay connected. Maybe I'll be able to help you. And so she ended up calling me the next week, and I ended up getting her a job at that company that I was going to visit. And so that was memorable in itself, because that defines who I am. Like, when I go to a restaurant, if the waitress impresses me, I try and recruit her for my team, for someone else's team. If somebody, I could just pick up on a good vibe, and I try and connect with that person and maximize that opportunity. But then this woman sent me like a pearl necklace, maybe a year after, maybe when she hit her 1-year anniversary, and just a lovely card saying that I changed her life. And she's like, you probably don't even remember me, but you changed my life. And today, fast forward, 8-9 years later, she actually owns her own trucking company. And so it's just such an awesome story that, like, we stay in touch on LinkedIn, and I, of course, remember her. And, it wasn't the necklace and it wasn't the card, but it was just what brought us together. And the fact that we both got something out of it, it was a moment to remember. So little acts of service can go a long way.
Oh my goodness. I love hearing and seeing moments like that. Especially the ending get extrapolated into that growth. Just a tiny little pivot, one moment,
Yep.
The right message can shift that trajectory forever.
It's like a sliding doors moment, like she just happened to say, what are you here for? If she didn't ask me that question or try to engage in a conversation, we never would have gone any further. But I changed her life, and I'll take that credit.
Wow. Love it. Well, there's clearly an aura of awesomeness following you around in this world. You're doing something right over there. And that's what we want to tap into on this next section. The secret sauce. We're going to steal your secret sauce, whatever you're doing over there. We'll start on the personal side, and then we'll start leaning into your business and your approach there. But first up, I'm very curious, in your day-to-day approach and routine, what habit or task is non-negotiable for you? Something that you have to do every day, or ideally every day.
I get to, not that I have to, I get to meditate every day. And that is something that has grounded me and carried me. And I'll be very honest that 15 years ago, if somebody would have told me that I should meditate, I would have laughed at them and said, like, I am not that person. Like, you've got me mistaken. And I found yoga when I started my business, and yoga led me to meditation, and it has been such a game changer. And I say it like that, truly, like, I get to meditate. And, it's one of those things, like, it's like working out where you kind of dread it. You're like, do I have time for this? I could be doing something else. And then the minute you finish it, like you're addicted to that last step of your run, that last breath you take that fuels you till the next time. So that is really how I think of it. And it's probably going on 6 years, and it's a daily habit. And it's just funny because I do not consider myself disciplined. Like the only thing I do every day is brush my teeth and meditate. But if you asked me to like fill out a spreadsheet every day or log my hours, like no way will I stick to it. But meditation, I see the value. And so it's become just like part of my lifestyle. Like it's non-negotiable.
Wow. Okay. This is interesting. I think a lot of people are in the front end of this journey where they hear it a lot, or those early stages where you're like, this feels kind of weird. And especially business owners, entrepreneurs, you can't not think about, I could be actually doing something right now.
Exactly. Yeah. I was just telling someone this story. I'll make it quick, but like, when you think of meditation, it is a privilege. And somehow I have 3 teenage boys and a husband in my house. And when I say I'm going to meditate, they respect it. I close my door. Nobody bothers me. It is my 25 minutes. But if I would say I'm going to take a nap, like that would not fly. And that would not fly in most people's houses. Like my kids would be running in. My husband would be like, well, that must be nice to nap at 4:00. And so that's my suggestion to people who want to get into meditation is say you're going to meditate. And meditation to me is almost taking a nap. Like you want to find that place between awake and sleep and just like catch yourself there and stay there. So go meditate, but it really is a nap, a cat nap, and see how it goes for you. And your family will respect you if you say you're meditating and not napping.
Oh, love that. Love seeing that come to life because, it's one of those easier. We hear it all the time, over and over and over, but it's very difficult to have the discipline, like you mentioned, the structure, the environment. So that's brilliant to see how you've integrated that into your day. In a similar fashion, what tool or application or software of any sort is a must-have for your life or your business in that context? What's something you just have to use, keep it glued to your day every day?
Yeah, I mean, you can relate. It's LinkedIn.
Oh,
that is for sure my platform of choice. And I give LinkedIn a lot of credit for helping me establish myself and my brand. I was on LinkedIn in 2010 when I started my business. I used it differently back then, but it has just given me a voice, a network, a community. So huge fan of LinkedIn. And then I would also just mention Slack. Slack was something that we implemented when we made the decision to go fully remote right after the pandemic. And it is just a game changer. And most people think like, oh, a chat technology, why is it, so great? Or how did it really evolve your business? But what we do is we have, different channels, and we probably have as many like personal topics as we do professional. And that's what keeps our team connected. Like you want to talk about your pets, go to the pets channel. You want to talk about your plants, go to the plants channel. And so I would say that is like been a huge game changer for us outside of email, outside of events and different opportunities we have, on Zoom to be face to face. Slack keeps people connected in a real way. So those are probably my two faves.
Wow. No, that's brilliant, especially seeing that integration. I see it a lot in community building is often the context, the Slack and Discord. We always try to steer people towards connecting personal interests with professional goals. That is always my recipe for community building, but I'm seeing you use your internal team, and which is still its own micro community, to deepen and strengthen and build that connection. Absolutely love it. So what exactly do you do, I guess, in the context of how you use these tools? How do you approach using LinkedIn? What is your specific, I guess, process or tasks or items? Because it's very easy to just log on, scroll down the feed, like a bunch of stuff, comment a few times and be like, yeah, no, this doesn't really work. Like, I don't know. So how do you specifically use it? What's like your approach, your process, or strategy with LinkedIn?
Yeah, I used LinkedIn early on in the LinkedIn life, but also in my career. And originally it was a connecting tool for me. So I would find relevant people, send them a connection. This was before the bots were spamming everyone and people actually like knew I was a human. And I built my network very quickly. And most people don't know this. You probably do, but you can only have 30,000 connections on LinkedIn. So I tapped out on my connections probably like 5 or 6 years ago. And I had like a pity party. I'm like, now what am I supposed to do? I can't connect with people. I can't communicate with them for free anymore. So I really flipped it into this follower mentality and started posting content. And there's a whole other story, content I avoided for many years. I didn't want to, come off narcissistic or as an imposter or be judged. And then one day I got the balls to do it. And I actually posted something personal about one of my kids, and it went viral. And the aftermath was the comments and the DMs were, I didn't know you were a mom. Like, thank you for even not even about the video, but like, wait, you have kids, and this is like the first time you've let us peek behind the curtain of your personal life. Because before that, all my posts were like 5 interview tips or how to handle a great negotiation. And then once I started letting people in, the engagement was there, the response was there, and so now I'm a daily poster, and I don't post every day for vanity metrics. I mean, of course, that it does drive our business, so I do want that engagement of relevant humans. But I post because I inspire, and I am inspired by inspiring other people. So you could probably relate to this with your community, Travis. But like, if I get one message a week and someone says your post really made me think about my situation, or your post, I shared it with my wife, she needed to hear that. Like, that's my purpose. Last week, I actually tagged Paris Hilton, and she commented back. And that I would say was like the peak of my career on LinkedIn.
Yo, I'm telling you, LinkedIn is becoming the cool kids table. We got Ryan Reynolds, we got Mr. Beast, we got Paris Hilton over there.
Yeah. So I use it now in an interesting way. Like when I post daily, I mean, it's a mix of advice, it's articles, it's thought leadership, it's personal anecdotes. But I use LinkedIn to connect with my community, but also to connect with my team and communicate with my team. So every time I post something, I share it with my team on Slack. I don't need them to go on LinkedIn and like it, but I want them to read what I put out there, because if I say something, I mean it. And I'm not just saying it to engage followers. I'm saying it because that is what I walk the walk. And so a lot of the things that we do that are untraditional, we have, 4-day work weeks, we work from home, we have flex hours. Like I preach that on LinkedIn, but my team like that, it makes it more authentic when I can communicate with my team that way as well. So that's how I use it, but it has driven 90% of our business has come to us from LinkedIn communication, referrals, networking. So yeah, it's a big part of our growth.
Wow. Absolutely amazing. And truly an OG. I think we've got a lot of bandwagon LinkedIners.
Yeah.
I was a pandemic LinkedIner, kind of finally joined the party, was like, all right, I'm sick of Gary Vee yelling at me. But you really have leaned into it from the start, and you've seen, I can just tell from the conversation, the different shifts in the platform too, of how you started with original, like OG one-to-one connections, and then growing to that next level of maxing out your connections, and then hitting that next level approach of how to build an audience, build a community. And clearly, if that's driving 90% of your guys' business, it's been working well. So let's dive a little deeper into that now on the business side and your guys' specific approach. Can you share a specific strategy or system that you guys bring to the table? I know you really help a lot of logistics, kind of very complex industries, but in the context of recruiting anyone, anywhere, what is your general approach or system or strategy when you kind of start meeting with these executives, these leaders? How does that unfold, and how can we start making sure we're at least putting up the bumper lanes to stay on the right path for recruiting this top tier talent?
It's interesting how we have evolved as recruiters and also as thought leaders and consultants in just the recruiting talent acquisition space. And a lot of it comes down to just human leadership. Like, it is so simple. If somebody were to ask me, like, my culture is in bad shape, what do I need to do? I mean, I could give you lots of tactics and strategies and processes, but the simple answer is treat your employees like humans and really make an effort, and you will see a huge difference. And it's just about like knowing who they are behind their title. Like, we all have emotions and families and problems and challenges outside of work. And when leaders and managers take the time to understand that, it goes a long way. And so as a recruiting firm, I mean, we are filling open positions. And what's unique about us is we don't want to work with companies that have open positions because of turnover. If they bring people in and they churn and burn and they're always calling us, like, now we have 6 spots open on the floor, we need warm bodies. That is not our ideal client. Our ideal client is a company that is hiring because they're growing, or they're hiring because they just promoted someone and now they need to backfill that person's seat. And the reason we care about that is because it shows us that these companies can retain their talent. And that's what I really think the secret sauce to recruiting is, you know, even if you have one employee, you have a culture and you have to engage that person, create opportunities for connection and, you know, for them to feel a purpose. And then you use that retention strategy for your recruiting brands. Like, not only do we want you to join our company because of XYZ, but you're going to get here and you're going to really feel it, and then you're going to stay. And we have a lot of tenured team members, and I mean, I am all for, like, let's carry them as long as we can and promote them and develop them, because I want them to be here, and I don't want to go out and have to hire new people if we don't need it. So we are a different type of recruiting firm that focuses more on retention and the topics that drive retention to feed our recruiting business.
That is music to my ears. That is gold to hear. The deeper I get into this business building adventures, the more I recognize exactly what you're saying. I would 100 times rather have like my 2 or 3 like ride or dies, treat them well above whatever is like average competitive salary. Because I do not want to have to go find those people again. I do not want to go find them at all.
Like, it's not, I mean, in today's market, people are desperate. They need jobs, they need salaries. So salary is driving a lot of the hiring decisions right now. But during the pandemic and the Great Resignation, I mean, job seekers wanted trust, they wanted empathy, they wanted opportunity, they wanted culture. So even small firms, like, you can retain on a budget, and it is not always about the spend or how much you pay someone or how great your benefits are. I mean, that contributes. That's why we work, and I'm not going to deny that. But what employees want and why they will come to your company and stay at your company, those are other intangible things that it's usually more of like a vibe or feeling or connection than, you know, a number on your paycheck.
Love it. Love it. I'm very curious. Yeah. In this process of finding, I guess, the right fit, when somebody recognizes they need talent, they need people, they have 2 options to go in-house, internal, or find a recruiting firm specializes in this. And there's all kinds of equations, I guess, kind of signals to lead them one direction or the other. What is the most valuable, I guess, signals or thresholds that would steer somebody towards a recruiter? Like, when should we hire in-house? When should we bring in the big boys? When should we? What is your general approach for that crossroad?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'm all for referrals and using your network to hire, as I told you. I mean, that is part of how I built my business through, you know, my second cousin's friend's friend.
Yeah.
But I think companies turn to recruiters, and they should turn to recruiters in a couple different scenarios. I mean, the first is that we speak their language within our industry. So not only just finding a recruiter, but a specialized firm that is niche. It saves companies so much time, money, effort when we can talk to a client and they're just spitting out acronyms and we don't have to stop them and say, wait, hold on, I don't know what that means. We're we're just going with it. And then when we start listing the acronyms or naming their competitors, like then they're like, wait, you guys actually get it. And so that specialization, that niche knowledge, I think is one reason they come to us. Another is the networking. I mean, we have an established network. I've been building it even before this company when I worked in the industry, 16 years of building a network of professionals. You can't compete with that. It's like we have these people in arm's reach already. And then I also think when you think about recruiting, it's something that a lot of people in a company get involved in, but it's not on everyone's job description because it's not easy.
We're exploring how these companies and individuals really choose recruiting versus going in-house. And a lot of the time, there is opportunity in leaning on your internal network. But when it comes to niche and industry expertise, now is when you want to call on the recruiters, the big boys, everything. And that is where you guys have been really powerful in helping people really show what they can do and bring to the table. So want to jump to our last section here. We're going to play the world's fastest game show ever, where all you have to do is answer this or that. These randomly generated items. Are you ready to play?
I am.
Okay. Round 1. Red wine or white wine?
White.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Round 2. A poem or a story?
Story.
Love it. And round 3. This one's interesting. Crunchy peanut butter or smooth peanut butter?
We have a divided house here, so we always have both, and I just am privileged to have access to both. I'm going to say crunchy, though. If I had to choose, I'd probably buy crunchy.
Love it. There we go. Absolutely amazing. Well, you just beat the game. Your prize incoming. Why don't you go ahead and share? For those of us that have been listening and interested in A, following you on your journey, or B, leveraging and utilizing this network you've been building, your recruiting services, how can people find you and get involved with your journey?
Absolutely. Find us on LinkedIn. If you're friends with Travis, you'll get to me through him. And you can follow me with my personal profile, Charlie Saffro, or our company page, CS Recruiting. Would love to hear from you if you're in the logistics industry or if you're not, whether you're looking for a job or hiring or just looking for some thought leadership around employee engagement, human leadership, and talent and human capital.
Boom. 100% recommend that follow. I've been following the journey for a while, and it is been amazing to follow and see that personal side, but then the business growth and just watching it level up and level up and level up again. So I do have to give you a quick moment of appreciation and acknowledgement because I have been around the block for a while now. And I've seen a lot of people doing this business building thing, and especially LinkedIn, in very questionable ways. And there's others that are doing it very honorably and doing it right. And you are definitely one of them, Charlie.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's a lot of time, but it's worth it.
My pleasure. Let's wrap this up with our final question. And this one's for one specific listener. And they might be just starting out on this journey, or perhaps they're just stuck taking it to the next level. But what final words of advice can you share to send them into beast mode?
My advice is you can't scale a business without the right people. And I will be the first to tell you that managing employees is very hard. It is the one thing that keeps me up at night is thinking about how to make everyone happy. And I know I'll never accomplish that at every moment, but it is the right people that will drive your business. So you've got to figure out what your leadership style is, how to engage these humans, how to connect with them, and just know that it's a team effort. You're not expected to do it alone.
Boom! There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the B2Beast podcast. This has been Charlie Saffro.
You're a beast.